First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Coming up on WUFT First at 5, an update on the victims of a stabbing spree in Tallahassee and what may have led to the attack.
We start local, though. We are hearing from one woman who lost a close family member in the attack on 9/11. Good evening, I'm Zach Oliveri.
And I'm Valerie Lyons. Thanks for joining us. On 9/11, we remember one of the most horrifying days in American history.
WFT's Chris O'Brien visited the 9/11 Memorial Wall today in Marion County. Chris, how can you describe that scene this morning?
Well, Val, Zach, this is the first time this memorial has come to Marion County, and it was a powerful sight. The touring exhibit kicks off a series of events this week. Over 100 people came to Veterans Memorial Park today to honor those who lost their lives in the attack. Five bells rang out to remember 343 firefighters who died in the terrorist attacks on 9/11. A trumpet played taps to celebrate all lives lost. And over 100 people came together to honor all those lost. Some just came out of respect, but others were paying a heavier price. Sandra Andrews is one of those others, as she lost a close cousin to the attack.
And she was in the second tower that was hit. My aunt received a phone call from her right after the first plane hit. And then as the second plane hit, the call went dead.
She was still holding out hope that her cousin Lisa M. Terry had somehow survived the second plane, but reality set in not long after.
The final acceptance came when Red Cross showed up with jewelry, melted jewelry, and that's all we have. Now we have to accept that her name is on the list, and every year it's a memory. A memory I wish I didn't have.
Sandra wasn't the only one to remember. Marion County Fire Rescue driver engineer Daniel Pope recalled the days after the attack as well.
Kissed my daughter goodbye, went to the firehouse, and it was just dead nut silent. It was just dead stick. A bunch of guys with bags under their eyes from watching the news all night, cups of coffee, and just everybody looked different.
18 years later, and we still remember. The 9/11 Memorial Wall will be in Ocala through Sunday. There are events every day until the closing ceremony Sunday at 4.
Thank you, Chris. In a speech today, President Trump discussed the state of the nation 18 years after the attacks.
He spoke at the Pentagon at a private ceremony dedicated to survivors and family members of those who were killed. He reflected on where he was when the attacks occurred.
I was looking out. I was looking out of a window from a building in Midtown Manhattan, directly at the World Trade Center, when I saw a second plane at a tremendous speed go into the second tower. It was then that I realized the world was going to change.
Many observances took place across the country. An annual commemoration ceremony for family members of victims was held at the National September 11 Memorial in New York. A tribute of light will shine from the 9/11 Memorial Plaza in New York this evening. And in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where the fourth plane crashed, Vice President Mike Pence spoke at the memorial site. He said the heroics of the men and women on Flight 93 will never be forgotten.
This year's remembrance of the attacks is also focused on the first responders who have died since. NBC's Chris Pallone reports from New York.
With bagpipes and bells, prayers, and patriotic songs, Americans pause to remember the people killed in the nation's deadliest terror. Gathered at the 9/11 Memorial, observing moments of silence 6 times, marking the exact time that changed a nation forever.
We're here today.
This week, 22 new names have been added to the New York City Fire Department's 9/11 Memorial, and Manhattan's 9/11 Memorial dedicated a new section in May to those who died and those who will die from 9/11 related diseases. It's called the Memorial Glade. It has 6 giant stone monoliths with steel from the Twin Towers pointing skyward, roughly outlining the ramp that first responders walked for months into the fearlessly at the Pentagon and Ground Zero in the days following 9/11. Americans vowed they'd never forget the victims. 18 years later, there are more victims than ever to remember. Chris Pallone, NBC News, New York.
At UF, a 9/11 memorial stair climb to commemorate the first responders is taking place at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in less than an hour. WFT reporter Maggie DeRogers is there right now and tells us people are signing in and getting ready. We'll have her report for you tomorrow, and for more 9/11 coverage this evening, the PBS NewsHour is coming up at 7.
You know, Zach, we haven't seen some rain here in a while.
I know, Valerie. It's been so hot lately. We are in desperate need of a cool down. WFT's Nicolette Zangara joins us now from the Weather Center as we may finally get some much needed rain.
Well, we certainly saw a few more showers and thunderstorms than previous days, and we still have a very strong thunderstorm heading into Cross City at the moment with several strikes of lightning and various rumbles of thunder as well. But you can see across most areas we're mostly dry at the moment, aside from a few sprinkles in northeastern Alachua County. Taking a look at the campus cam across the University of Florida, partly cloudy skies with some cumulus clouds lingering around. Temperatures right now, we're finally out of the triple digits for those feels-like temperatures, and air temperature-wise sitting in the low 90s. You can see over Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, a beautiful evening for that 9/11 tribute. Now, taking a look at the rest of the evening hours, you can see temperatures will start to cool off into the low 70s in the overnight hours. We'll see some patchy fog, especially concentrated to the northern counties, but you can see in your updated 6-day forecast that this weekend, rain chances will be on the rise. Back to you.
A mass stabbing at a Tallahassee workplace today left 5 injured. 41-year-old Antoine Brown is accused of using a folding pocket knife to stab several of his co-workers at Dyke Industries. The company distributes building supplies like doors and windows. All 5 victims were taken to the hospital. 1 is in serious condition. Police say there was some sort of dispute and no evidence the attack was planned in advance.
A man is in the hospital after a small plane crash at the Boca Raton airport. Take a look at this footage. You can see the plane in pieces on the runway. The cause of the crash is under investigation, but officials say the plane crashed shortly after takeoff. The FAA said in a statement that the pilot was returning to land at the airport when the crash occurred. One person is in the hospital, but the extent of their injuries is unknown. The other passenger has minor injuries. 2,500 people are now listed as missing in the Bahamas after Hurricane Dorian. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez reports from Nassau on how the government is handling the crisis.
The Bahamian government says about 2,500 people are now registered as missing in this country, more than a week after Hurricane Dorian slammed into the U.S. Customs and Border Protection says about 4,000 people have already evacuated to the U.S. Search for bodies continues in the northern Bahamas.
And then today what we're doing is clearing the rubble so the police can get in and collect the bodies.
This is a long-term disaster here as we're expecting more rain in the coming days, which could slow the recovery effort. The official death toll remains at 50, but the government here expects that number to rise sharply. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, Nassau.
If you're looking to donate money or goods to the victim, you're recommended to research on the charity before taking action.
Coming up on WFT News First at 5, a school field trip allows students to understand the impact of the 9/11 tragedies.
Plus, a look at the precious moment caught on camera of a preschooler's reunion with his friends after Hurricane Dorian. Those stories and more coming up after the break.
We're watching this tropical wave closely as it tracks towards the Bahamas. What does that mean for north central Florida? I'll have more after the break.